Welcome to Pandora's box. Calego.
Calego?
Calego.
Welcome once again to Pandora's box. You're listening to Aspen Waite Radio. You might also be watching us on YouTube, in which case you are taking in our visages. You may also be listening to us on Spotify. If you're not following us on Spotify, please go follow us on Spotify.
Get your head down.
If you're not subscribed to us on the tubes, go on the tubes. Give us a subscribe. Look up Pandora's Box podcast. Be much appreciated, y'all. And then you can keep up to date with the plethora of interesting topics and facts and questions and all sorts of things that we get up to.
General ponderings.
That's right, but we're going to get right into it this week. Not even any messing around.
What we got?
Not even messing around. But I suppose first I should announce myself. I am your host, as always, Obadiah Pennywhistle. This week to the left of me, I'm just going to bring back last week because I thought it suited you so much.
Yeah.
Mr. Bojangles.
Mr. Bojangles.
Mr. Bojangles.
Eternity. Mr. Bojangles.
Mr. Bojangles. I'm going to rinse it. I'm going to milk it for everything it's worth. And on the right, we have Rectoid.
Rectoid.
He is the Rectoid.
Yeah, I was thinking Rectoid or Filch.
Filch? Do you want to go for Filch?
Yeah, I quite want to go for Filch today.
Yeah, all right, Filch.
Filch. It's nice and short.
Filch.
Yeah. Filch.
Filch.
Filch. Okay, cool. So I'm actually going to sort of bring you guys a sequel now.
Ooh.
This is like a follow-up story.
I like this.
So, do you remember a while back, I told you all the tale of Hannibal Barca of Carthage.
And about the one that went over the mountains.
Yeah.
Went over the Alps.
The Alps.
And
the
then
elephants.
He has the record to this day for the most enemy troops slaughtered within a 24-hour period when he came this close to like destroying the whole of the Roman Empire. He had like war elephants and a massive army from Carthage and all this stuff, but he basically made one tactical error where he didn't like push forward.
Did not push on.
And then eventually the Romans ended up winning. But it's like he's seen as like one of the best generals ever. Well, I thought it'd be quite cool as almost like a follow-up to that to talk about the Roman general who actually did end up defeating him.
Oh, okay.
Cool.
So the Roman general who was mainly credited with coming up with the game plan and everything to defeat Hannibal Barca was called General Scipio Africanus.
Oh, Scipio
cool name.
Africanus.
Yeah,
Cool name.
and he was in like modern day Italy when the Battle of Cannae took place. I don't think he was present, but
He wasn't present. He's just like, this is what you got to do. Make sure you do it.
No. He wasn't present at the Battle of Cannae. So Cannae was when Hannibal won. So I think he saw the devastation afterwards and was just like,
time to step up.
Yeah. And at the time, obviously, so Carthage didn't obviously like pull out. After that, they kept their troops in southern Italy. And at this time, by this point, like Carthage in their own right had like a massive empire.
Right.
So they owned like lots of Spain. Had loads of like settlements now in like southern Italy and stuff like that.
So
and loads of in North Africa as well.
Just to go slightly off topic for 1 second. Carthage's empire then, did that kind of all fall after this? Like after Hannibal Barca lost?
Yeah,
so that was pretty much the end of it?
Yes.
He put all his eggs in one
they
basket.
never
basket
recovered.
got trampled, man.
Yeah. So, but General Scipio, he was like a very, very intelligent man.
This is General Scipio for all the people watching.
Nice
you
little
can see him
picture.
up on the screen here.
Yeah, wow.
There's
Filch.
a really weird picture of him.
Filch has got up a nice picture of Africa. Yeah, show a couple if you can.
Yeah.
But so he like studied Hannibal. He like studied all of his battle tactics. He got all these reports of like how Hannibal won, like what were the deciding moments of like every single battle that Hannibal won. Really tried to get inside the brain of Hannibal and like figure him out. Scipio was obviously like a very intelligent man and a great general in his own right, and he basically came up with this game plan. So what he decided would be the best thing to do first was he called forth loads of legions. So he pulled loads of legions, Roman legions, to himself.
Get them people together.
And he first targeted Spain, but he did it
Right.
like the Carthaginians weren't expecting him to target Spain. So he basically destroyed all the Carthaginian forces in Spain and just completely overtook Spain. He then next did something that was even more unexpected, and he went right for the heart of Carthage, and he just attacked Carthage with like loads of legions. So it's like after like the Carthaginians went to his doorstep, he went to their doorstep. Hannibal Barca obviously got word of this and was like, oh dear.
Uh-oh.
So
Not good.
So he pulled all of his forces back, and like the the ultimate battle that took place was called the Battle of Yama, where eventually General Scipio managed to defeat Hannibal. Hannibal didn't die there at the battle. He was taken prisoner by Rome, and he ended up dying. I believe he ended up dying under Roman, as a Roman prisoner, like years later. I'm pretty sure.
Did he get chopped up into 1,000 pieces?
No, I don't think so. He might have been eventually executed, but I know he spent like years imprisoned.
Okay.
But yeah, so Rome ended up. So General Scipio managed to destroy Carthage, destroyed all of the armies, and then as like an honor for because obviously Carthage is in like northern Africa, they gave him then the title General Scipio Africanus, as like a way that he was almost like the conqueror of northern Africa. So that's an epic name, isn't it?
That's
General
cool.
Scipio Africanus.
Yeah.
But one thing I think is almost like shows Scipio in a really good light. Not only obviously was he like a really intelligent tactician, and obviously like managed to in the end like defeat a guy who himself is like considered arguably like one of the best generals of all time. But he also was clearly like a very compassionate man, because apparently, as he was like watching Carthage burn, once the army had been like wiped out and like Carthage was literally on fire, and at the time Carthage was one of the most like beautiful, impressive like cities on the planet. Apparently, he just started weeping, and apparently he was just like really sad. Just I mean, at the end of the day, it was like
it's quite brutal. Something.
He did what he needed to do, but he wasn't the sort of guy that he wasn't reveling in like the destruction. He thought it was like really sad.
He just knew it was necessary.
Yeah, exactly. Like, like after what happened at Cannae and like all of those Romans that died. But he wasn't happy about it. He was like, like literally weeping. I think his tale, though, is a tale of sorrow. Because he didn't actually have like the greatest end. So when he came back to Rome, obviously, like, so never again did Carthage like have like a big empire. Yeah. So like Carthage itself like rebuilt a bit, and it was like a very important like city in itself. But they never had like an empire again.
And was it under Rome then? Was it like classed as a Roman place?
They were given their own place, but all the other territories were taken over by Rome.
Okay.
So like Spain after that was like Rome. They only had their little like Carthage was that was it. That was the only place that they were allowed.
I wonder why they that was like they could keep that. I wonder why Rome didn't
not
actually
100%
take over Carthage as a Roman like.
Maybe they were just on the decline, and was this at the point Rome were on the decline?
No. But I think it was probably more like they'd obviously, even back in those days, I think we think of it as being like a very modern thing, but even in those days they would like negotiate and stuff.
Right.
And they probably had terms, so it was probably like, obviously it got to the point Carthage had been overtaken, they'd surrendered because they had like no forces left. Hannibal had been like, was like defeated, and then they probably said like, look, okay, we need to negotiate now. We are going to take every single bit of territory you own, and then in return, you can keep Carthage, but you're only allowed to stay there. And if you ever like try and rebuild square up to us again, we are just going to completely wipe you off the map. And they were like, okay. At that point, they had no.
Am I making this up, or did you last time you spoke about Hannibal Barca? Did you say that they salted like all the ground so that they couldn't grow crops and stuff?
I don't think that was with Hannibal.
No.
What, Hannibal did that to Italy or the other way around?
No, it happened to Carthage after.
No, I don't think so. I don't think so.
Okay. Must be mixing two stories.
Yeah, I think that must have been another story. I can't remember that anyway. But yeah, Scipio had a bit of like a sad end because he came back to Rome and he was like this massive hero. And everybody like worshipped him. Obviously, he was like the savior of his day. Because a lot of people in Rome were like seriously worried that it might have been like the end of the Roman Empire. After Cannae and stuff, like such a brutal defeat. Like literally to this day, like the worst defeat of like all time. And but obviously, what happens with stuff like this is he'd become like such like a. He'd almost started being treated almost like a demigod, and he was a very good man, like a very decent man, like an honourable man. So obviously, all the citizens of Rome like worshipped him, and then inevitably, like what would happen today as well, all the nasty little sneaky politicians of the day started growing very envious of him, and they were very worried about the power that he held, because they felt that like the people loved him so much that like anything that he did or he would say would like completely overrule anything that they would ever like
wanted
do.
The power.
And like as is the nature with like a lot of politicians, I mean we see it all over the world all the time. Like politicians are quite dodgy,
conniving.
Yeah, it's quite rare actually that you see like that there are politicians that you feel like fully trustworthy.
Yeah,
which is in itself is quite strange because obviously the whole point is like you obviously want politicians to be some of the most trustworthy people in your entire society.
But they're definitely not.
But they often tend to be some of the most like scheming and most underhanded and like secretive, not sincere, always got an agenda.
It's like when you think of
telling
like
you one thing, doing another.
Yeah, like who you'd want to follow, like the most kingly figure that you can imagine. It is like this, like almost like a warrior king.
Oh yeah,
that's really like
someone like Scipio.
Rule.
Noble.
Yeah, noble, can rule, but then can also like protect and all of that kind of stuff. But politicians are the ones that do hold the power, and they don't have any of those qualities anymore. It doesn't seem like it's not those kingly like qualities that you'd want to follow as like from a leader. So it's crazy, isn't it? Like,
100%. Like if you think of Scipio, as I said, like he was clearly a genius. And he was clearly a great warrior, but he was also clearly a very compassionate man, and that's what you want. He was obviously an amazing leader. You're not like such a successful general if you're not an amazing leader. So he must have been very charismatic, very likable, knew how to rule well. Because let's face it, not all people can rule. A lot of people, if you do it the wrong way, you end up rubbing up people the wrong way. The people that are serving under you end up not wanting to follow you. There needs to be that sense of camaraderie. You need to inspire your people, and you need to be a decent ruler. I mean, it's easier said than done, isn't it?
Yeah.
Scipio obviously had all of those qualities. All the politicians in Rome started becoming worried about him. They didn't like him, and then they started thinking of like plots to like basically take the power away from him. So there was basically lots of scheming done, and they ended up trying to accuse him of crimes.
Oh, what?
Yeah, they ended up trying to accuse him of crimes. The people of Rome loved him so much that they like basically like rioted and said like, don't you dare try and get don't you dare try and do Scipio for these like crimes, and like they were like essentially like rioting on the doorstep.
Look
of, like,
what he's
the
done
Senate.
for Rome.
They were like
defeated all of Carthage.
Yeah, they like loved him. You know what I mean? They loved him. They're like, how dare you? And apparently they rioted on the anniversary of his victory at the Battle of Yama. It was like coming up. It just so happened that around that time it was coming up to the anniversary of that day. So and it was almost like what a perfect day to do it.
Yeah, that adds like more power to the riot, doesn't it?
The anniversary, they were like, this is literally the anniversary of the day that this guy like saved Rome and like, defeated the Carthaginians, like the greatest ever threat to Rome. And like here you are trying to put him on trial for like something everyone knows is like a ruse. But anyway, after like years and years of political struggle, I'm pretty sure he decided to in the end. But things just got too hard and too heated for him inside Rome, so we ended up moving out to the countryside, like miles outside of Rome. And when he was in his 50s, dying, his like final request. I think there's actually you can actually look up online. I can't remember what it is. Maybe you could look it up for me. We'll see like General Scipio Africanus's dying words, but I think it was something like a really poetic way of basically saying like, "Don't bury me in Rome," because like.
Rome has forsaken
it was
me.
basically like I gave my life to Rome, and they like they treated me so badly in return. Like, I do not want to honor that place and everything it stands for by like giving my body to it. So his final wish was to be buried somewhere else. And I think to this day it's like one of those things. It's a bit like Alexander the Great. Like they don't actually know where he's
under
buried.
A secret olive tree somewhere.
Yeah, probably. Maybe it's not even. Yeah, maybe it's not even like a massive tomb or anything. Have you found?
I can't find the exact.
You can't find his quote. Oh, that's a shame. But rest in peace, General Scipio Africanus, the Roman general that finally managed to defeat one of the greatest generals of all time, Hannibal Barca. What a legendary man. What a great Roman general.
Legend for Rome, yeah.
Yeah, one of the greatest Roman generals of all time.
I like it. I've never heard of him, but I'm very interested now.
Yeah, Scipio Africanus.
If Carthage beat Rome in that duel, in that war,
the Punic Wars.
Do you think they would have had like a huge empire like Rome had?
Oh, yeah, 100%.
You think they would have just kind of inherited it?
Yeah, they would have just taken it over and just owned all the land. Yeah, owned it all.
That's mental.
I think it's really cool as well. Like, obviously, we talked a while back. I think it was when you were off with COVID, Mr. Bojangles. But we were talking about how the Phoenicians, like 1,000 years before that, were actually the people that founded Carthage.
Yeah.
So that's cool, isn't it? So it's like it all ties in.
Yeah.
If you go back far enough, it all sort of ties in. So we did like a whole sort of like episode of Pandora's Box that you can go back and find on YouTube and Spotify and stuff, where we like talked so in depth about the Phoenicians, like who they were, where they came from. All of that stuff, but yeah, they were actually the people that founded Carthage. So like Hannibal Barca was like the descendant of the Phoenicians.
So cool.
So like the Phoenicians, Crazy. That's cool. That's such a cool. But yeah, want to tell you guys that tale of General Scipio Africanus.
Oh, yeah.
You can listen to a track now. This is The Sparrow by Mastodon. Enjoy, everyone. See you after the break. Welcome back to Pandora's Box. You're listening to Aspen Waite Radio. You might also be taking our visages through the tubes or via the platform of Spotify. Cheers for being with us, everybody. I'm your host, as always, Obadiah Pennywhistle. To the left of me, we have Mr. Bojangles.
Mr. Bojangles.
And to the right of me, we have Filch.
What's up? I'm Filch.
So far today, we've been talking about General Scipio Africanus.
Oh, he sounds like a dude.
Cool
One of
dude.
the greatest ever Roman generals. We were just doing the creepy little melodic chanting for the hit show. I don't know if it's a hit, actually. Archive 81. It should be. It should be a hit
very
show.
good
It's
stuff,
amazing.
man.
So yeah,
That's
like
good.
I literally hadn't even heard anything of it. I just a couple of weeks ago, I like saved it on my list on Spotify. I saw it basically like the keywords were like ominous, dark, suspenseful. I was like, sold.
Bit of me.
Yeah, exactly. Hadn't really like been watching much recently, so I was like, yeah, it's nice to have a little program just to like kill an hour or two in the evening, isn't it? Anyway, watch the first one. Hooked. So hooked.
Straight up hooked.
See, obviously, don't want to give too many spoilers away. Me and Filch have watched all of the first season. Mr. Bojangles is 6 episodes in.
Yeah,
2
2
episodes
to go.
remaining. So
Do you reckon there'll be a second season?
there better damn well be.
Oh.
I did look it up actually afterwards because obviously they leave it on a bit of a cliffhanger.
They always do that.
Oh
don't they?
man, it does your head in, you know?
Yeah.
It's one thing being left an episode on a cliffhanger, but when it's like a whole season and
Yeah,
you're
you
like,
need closure, man. You need closure.
you know you're going to have to wait like at
One of
least
those
a year.
happy endings.
Filch, I cannot believe you've watched it all.
Yeah,
He
man.
watched
By the time I spoke to you last
He was the last
Friday,
one to start watching
yeah,
it.
and you hadn't even like started watching.
I finished it first out of everyone.
Yeah, he binge watched it all in one night.
So 2 nights. So I watched the first like 3 episodes one night, and then I just literally spent a whole evening just like, I'll just do one, then I'll do another one, then I do it, and then I just
you must have felt like you were in the tapes by the end of it.
Yeah, I loved it. I love doing that. Though.
Yeah.
Just
It is
having
fun to
get fully in it.
It's an easy program to binge as
Mad.
well because every episode is left on a cliffhanger. Isn't it? Well, like most of them anyway, in some way, shape, or form, they are left on cliffhangers. But yeah, I mean, what can I say? It's one of the best, one of, if not the best, psychological, like freaky series I've ever seen. I'd go that far to say.
And like what you said about the writing as well, like such amazing writing and very inspired by like H.P. Lovecraft and stuff like that, like the whole demon coming through from another world.
Yep.
And,
Sleep and stuff like a sleep.
There was
all of that.
Yeah, I'm like a big fan of the old school horror author, like he's a legend nowadays in this field, H.P. Lovecraft. Also, there's a couple of things that reminded me of as I was watching it. So for all you horror enthusiasts out there, it reminded me of it was very Lovecraftian. Very, very Lovecraftian. Anybody that's a fan of Lovecraft, if you watch it, you'll know exactly what I mean. Yeah. Also reminded me a lot of the absolute cult classic horror movie, Rosemary's Baby.
Rosemary's Baby. I've still never seen that. I need to watch it.
Yeah, quite famously, the actress in that. Famously freaky, but also the main actress in that was, I think, Mia Farrow, who was like one of like the biggest actresses of her day. I want to say, like, was it 60s or 70s Rosemary's Baby came out? Anyway, it's still to this day, I think, by a lot of people considered one of the greatest horror movies of all time. And I have to say, when I watched Rosemary's Baby, it definitely freaked me out.
Did it?
Yeah.
Because like a lot of horror movies don't really do that for me now. Like they've got the scare factor sometimes in that, but those psychological ones.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm
going.
That's what I was about to say to you. Like very much like Archive 81, Rosemary's Baby is very psychological. So there's bits where you're like, I can't remember what the character that she portrays, but Mia Farrow, her character, there's bits where you're like, is she imagining what's going on? Like, is she going crazy? Or is it actually happening? And you sort of go back and forth like that a couple times during the movie. And some weird things like happening, and it's like you don't know. You're like, are our neighbours sound? Or is there something weird going on? And there's other bits where you're like, is she dreaming? Or is it, like, for anybody that's actually watched Rosemary's Baby, I don't want to say it because if these guys need to watch Rosemary's Baby.
Yeah, I need to watch it. 1968 it came out. And it
So
was
it's an old school movie.
2 hours, 16 minutes. That's a long movie,
especially
isn't
for
it?
those
for
those
an
days.
old film, that's like a really long movie.
Yeah, I think my old man was 8 when that came out. I was like a proper little boy. But yeah, it's colour. It's a colour movie, so it must have been like
one of the first Technicolor movies, I would say,
especially like in the horror genre. But also, I suppose, I mean, traditionally, I'm not sure how seriously horror movies were taken. Actually, that said, one of the very first ever movies in general was Nosferatu. And obviously that is a horror movie.
Yeah.
That was like a silent film. That was before they could even record audio to go along with the picture. They just had like weird music in the background, like creepy scores and that. But so that's really cool, actually. That's worth a watch, Nosferatu, if you haven't seen that. Just for like the sheer,
not seen that either.
Just almost as like a part of cinema history.
Yeah.
And it is like weirdly creepy. Like the actor that plays Nosferatu, it's good effects on that for the time. I don't want to know. Like, can you look at when Nosferatu came out? I want to say like was it like 40s or maybe even 30s, but it's an old film.
1922.
Whoa!
That's
See,
mad.
there you go, 1922.
Special effects are like real creepy as well.
Yeah,
like he's a creepy looking dude.
He is really creepy, really creepy.
And I think it makes it more creepy because of like how basic all of the film and equipment and everything is. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I feel nowadays with 4K quality cameras and everything, you can look at something and the CGI might be like incredible, but because it's like you can really pick it apart.
Yeah,
there might be stuff like, for a good example, I saw some people like saying Luke Skywalker in Book of Boba Fett, like the CGI wasn't amazing, but it was.
I thought it was good.
It was so really good. But it's only because we can like pick it apart because it's
so,
such,
as you said, like 4K
clear
quality.
Yeah.
Imagine if that was like on like an old grainy black and white.
Yeah.
That person is real.
Yeah,
exactly.
It literally would look exactly like Luke Skywalker.
Exactly.
And what I do think is quite crazy when you say about that, like 4K and that as well, though, like film cameras and stuff, like when you actually have like film, that is like having like something stupid like a 2 million billion pixel kind of like camera. Like digital cameras, they can't recreate how, like you've got more detail in actual film, which is like crazy to think. Like say like photographs and stuff, when that goes onto the image of the film, it's like got more detail and depth than you can ever create digitally.
Right.
That's pretty crazy, isn't it? When you think of it like that.
Mental.
Yeah, definitely, man. But yeah, for anybody out there that has seen Rosemary's Baby, you know what I mean. There's an infamous like scene where you don't know if it's a dream or not, and it's so creepy. It's so creepy. Like even today, like you watch it by today's standards, because they can't rely. I think there's an over reliance nowadays because you can almost like create anything through CGI. I think there's a lot of horror movies nowadays are flops because it's like if say you see like a monster or like a demon or a ghost or whatever, it almost has like a bit of an anticlimax.
Yes.
I mean, you see it and you're like, oh, do you know what? Now I've actually seen it, and one thing that I've heard people say, and I think it myself as well, like some say like demons and monsters in some horror movies don't really look much different than say the aliens in Star Wars. Yeah. And as soon as you think about it like that in your head, it takes the edge off because you're like, I'm not really scared when I think of like an alien in Star Wars or when I see one of them on screen. So why would I be scared of like?
I think that's one reason why like Bird Box did so well originally, because the whole concept was that your own imagination was what built up what the monsters were going to look like.
That's a good point.
That's what's so much more freaky, isn't it? Like, like just not seeing everything.
Your brain will always conjure something far more terrifying.
Relying on the viewer's imagination to make it scary themselves is like a really good.
And that's why I think that like reading horror stories is far more scary than watching horror movies.
I don't know if I've ever read a proper horror book.
Yeah, I don't know if I have.
Horror. Man, you need to like just buy like the Necronomicon or like some sort of like H.P. Lovecraft or M.R. James like compilation of short, because they're all sort of short stories.
Yeah, quite a bit of Stephen King, which is quite horror-y, isn't it?
Yeah, they're like bigger novels though, aren't they?
Yeah.
Which is like awesome. But the thing I like about Lovecraft and M.R. James is like you could read a story anywhere between sort of like 2 and 40 pages. Some of them are literally to like 2-3 pages long. Right through to like 40 pages. So you could spend half an hour reading one, or you could spend 5 minutes reading one, or maybe even less. In some cases, and maybe up to like an hour. But it's like
and really accessible.
You could you could like at the end of every evening you could say, I'm going to read a H.P. Lovecraft or an M.R. James story every night before I go to bed, and it's easily doable. It's not too much of a a task. what's the word I'm looking for? You're not
commitment.
Yeah, you're not like you're not overly committed. You know, it's almost like I know I've got like books that I've had for years where I'm like I really want to read it, but I haven't got around to reading them yet because I know if it's like a 300+ page book, that's a commitment. That is a commitment, isn't it? And 100%. It's like if you want to read that like say like a chapter every day or every other day, and you want to keep that momentum up because you don't want to read it like it would take like a month off.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Well, that's eating up your time.
There's one about a cathedral that quite a few different people have told me about it, and it's quite historically accurate apparently. But it's it's about this. I can't remember the name, but it's about the building of this cathedral.
A horror story.
It's not a horror story. It's just like just saying about investing time in books and stuff. Like it's a massive thick book, but. I think Josh has read it. He absolutely
I know the book. Yeah, my mum loves it.
Yeah, and
what's it called?
I don't know.
But yeah, Josh has told me about it. My friend Toby's told me about it, and another guy as well. But apparently it's amazing because it's all historical figures, and there's like it's historically accurate. But this story about this building of this huge cathedral.
Isn't it about? It's the one in the place in London.
Oh, what?
We went up to visit it after my mum finished the book. She wanted to go so bad just because she loved the book so much.
You know, like the main cathedral.
Trafalgar.
Yeah.
The main cathedral. Oh, what's it called? I'm so embarrassed.
It's not like central London.
I'm so embarrassed I can't think of it. It's like this, like
it's like a little like town outside of it.
Is it called the London Cathedral?
No. Oh no. So it's not the big cathedral in the centre of London.
It's a big one. Like if I'm gonna figure out the name. But it's like when I figure it out, it is you'll know exactly what.
Why
I'm talking
can't I
about.
think of the cathedral?
I know
because it's quite. If it's the one I'm thinking of, it's the one that famously St. Paul's Cathedral. Yeah. It's the one that quite famously during the war.
Westminster
Abbey. That's probably the one. That's the one I'm thinking of actually. That's
St.
the
Paul's
one where like
Westminster. They're the biggest ones I think.
Yeah. I remember like quite famously Westminster Abbey, like during the war, like it was one of the most like savage raids by the Nazis on London, and they almost like took it as like a sign of God that like God was on Britain's side because. That day after the raid, when like the dust and the smoke had cleared, like everything around it had been like destroyed, and then Westminster Abbey was like there wasn't like a scratch on it, and it was like purely by chance.
Yeah,
the bombs just like missed it. Like,
that's crazy.
And it was like they saw that as like a sign of God, and that was like really good.
Probably the biggest target they had as well.
Yeah, and it was because it's like a massive cathedral. It's like one of the biggest cathedrals in Britain. So it's like they saw that as like a proper sign from God. So what are the chances of that? You know? It's so
crazy,
cool. So cool.
I always want to go to that one. Is it in York? There's like a
York Minster Cathedral.
Yeah,
it's the biggest. That is the largest one in Britain.
Yeah,
it's the second largest one in the whole of Europe. There's one bigger in Germany. I can't remember the name of it. But York
Gothenburg.
Gothenburger. But yeah, York Minster Cathedral is a sight to behold. I remember when I first went there. It was epic actually. Also because being up north in Britain. There are some awesome culinary delights. So in York, you can get like the same way that like you can get like a kebab wrap, you know. And it's
the Yorkshire pudding wrap. Oh,
and
baby.
They've got like fast food shops. And you can go in there in like the middle of the day, and they have like giant Yorkie puds. They'll have like lamb, pork, beef, chicken, whatever you want. You'll pick that. Whatever veg you want with it, potatoes, whatever sauce, whether it's lamb, you know, with lamb obviously mint sauce or whatever, whether you want like horseradish or whatever, just gravy, pick your veg, etc. They'll wrap it up for you and then they just put it in like a grill just for a minute, just to seal it, just to seal the Yorkie pud so it's not like a mess.
Lovely Yorkie pud up.
And then I went and saw York Minster Cathedral and I was like, whoa.
Yorkie and York Minster.
Yeah, exactly. Double Yorkie. Triple Yorkie.
Get in York.
York Minster Cathedral, Yorkie pud, York in Yorkshire. But quadruple Yorkie. But I reckon it's the only time I've properly been in awe of a building. Because obviously I've been to London like several times, and other like big cities in the world. I've been to like Florida, London, quite a few cities in my life. You know, I've been to like some big cities in like Italy and stuff like that. But yeah, it was the only time in my life where I've been like in awe of a building.
Yeah,
I remember I saw it and I was almost just like. Oh,
yeah.
I was like, oh my god!
Because I thought Wells Cathedral was big.
You look at you look at it and you're like, giants must have built this.
Yeah, they're all cathedrals and everything. Whenever you go to them, they just feel so epic. It's like the one I went to in Barcelona. Yeah, just unbelievable. I figured out what one the book's about.
Right,
Canterbury.
Oh, Canterbury
Cathedral.
So Canterbury is obviously not in London. It's
near.
It's near. It's like it's nearer the coast.
But yeah. Because I remember we went down to the coast on another day.
Canterbury's beautiful. I remember we went there with a band. Like we played a show in Canterbury randomly, and it was just like walking in a Harry Potter like set or something. Like through the.
Who was that artist we saw the other week supporting Fairport? Was it Thomas something?
Luke Hosking. No, not Hosking. Luke.
Luke Jackson.
Luke Jackson, that's it.
Yeah. He was from Canterbury, you were saying, wasn't he? Because it's famous.
Josh is going to laugh so much when he hears they said Luke Hosking, because that's like a gig promoter that put us on there. Oh.
But obviously it's famous for the Canterbury Tales.
Yeah.
That's what Canterbury's like really famous for, isn't it? All the Canterbury Tales.
Yeah, we were actually going to go to a museum about the Canterbury Tales while we were there, but we never went in the end. But
that's a shame.
Yeah, I don't know much about the Canterbury Tales, but was it just like a bit like the Mabinogi or something like is it like this
obviously nowhere near like
nowhere near
like ancient sort of
but is it like a word of mouth thing like
pagan like stories? No, the Canterbury Tales was written.
Oh, okay, so they're written tales.
Who was it that written? I if I'm wrong in this, I'm gonna feel like really stupid. Was it? It wasn't Chaucer, was it?
Tales.
Was it Sir Geoffrey Chaucer? Yeah, Sir Geoffrey Chaucer.
Look at that. Bit of knowledge.
I've not even heard of Mr. Chaucer.
Sir Geoffrey Chaucer, wrote the Canterbury Tales.
Widely regarded as his magnum opus.
Yeah.
I know you like
so
that
he
word
wrote it.
as
So
well, man. That's good.
what year was it that he wrote that? It was a lot. Obviously, it was more like a few hundred years ago rather than
1400 between 1387 and
so about 600 years ago. So medieval times, sort of just before the Renaissance, but like late medieval period. But obviously the Mabinogi was written like thousands of years ago, and as you said, originally would have been like would have gone down through word of mouth and through like bards and storytellers rather than actually being written down, which is pretty cool, isn't it? But yeah, I haven't read all the Canterbury Tales, but it's one of those things that now we're talking about it, I'm like, it makes me want to read it like right now.
Yeah, I want to read the Canterbury Tales.
I know both my mum and my brother both said that even though it's like such a huge book, it's like you just get hooked.
Was that Jake
or
it?
Josh?
Josh read the Canterbury Tales.
I think so.
That's awesome, man.
So.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
But getting back to our original point anyway, I definitely recommend to like both you guys like buy just like or I'll find one and like forward it on to you to like recommend one. But if you buy like the Necronomicon for Lovecraft, and then like I'll find a really good anthology of like M.R. James books, like short stories as well, and they're so good. Honestly, so as you said about that,
can you actually get that fear, like that feeling of when like you're, because that's what got me with Archive 81. I got freaked out
more so than watching it. You got to bear in mind, right? If you read one of them late at night, everyone else has gone to bed. It's silent in the house. Yeah. Say you're like sat in a chair on your own with just like a light, a lamp next to you,
like candle.
I sit in my armchair with like a lamp next to me. So that's the only other light on. So it's bright, just about bright enough that I can read without straining my eyes. And then once you get halfway through it, man, you start seeing stuff in the corner of your eyes when you're reading. Yeah. Like the amount of times I'm like reading one and I'm like,
have you ever
like
done it like?
And I'm like, oh man, it's getting to me now.
Have you ever done it in your house where it's like pitch black, but you turn the lights off, but you almost think you can see in the dark because you know where things are.
Yeah, of course.
But it is literally like I almost like see things. I almost see things. Wait, it's so pitch black, but I think I can see the wall, and then I just fucking hit the wall or something.
That's what mushrooms will do to you, everyone.
Yeah.
I know what you mean. I do know.
Mine just look like figures. I can't imagine to see like, I know, gorilla-like figures just standing in like a dark
That's
room.
me, mate. I've snuck into your house at night.
After the message you sent me earlier, it could be.
Yeah. Anyway, we're listening to another track now. This is Unforgiven by Metallica. Stick around, folks. We've got loads more to talk about. You are listening to Pandora's Box on Aspen Waite Radio. Thanks for chilling with us this evening. We are giving you a plethora of interesting facts, topics, as usual. Just a quick one. We are under the umbrella of Aspen Waite, and yesterday our patron Sir Paul Waite did an interview with one of the most nefarious and well-known jockeys of sort of like the last 20-30 years, Mr. Graham Bradley. So yeah, Paul did a nice big long interview with Graham Bradley that has gone out on YouTube and on Aspen Waite Radio yesterday. It got put out. So if you like your horse racing, if you know who Graham Bradley is, and you're like, do you know what? I've never seen an interview with Graham Bradley, but I'd love to sit down.
It's a long form one, nice hour long.
A nice long.
All his wins, all that stuff.
All of his wins, every other bit of information you could possibly know about Graham Bradley. Then go and watch it. Our patron Mr. Grumpus Grolf himself is also a massive horse racing fan, so he knows all the right questions to ask. And apparently it was a really good interview. I haven't seen it myself yet, but
just put Paul Waite meets Graham Bradley onto YouTube. You'll see that, or just Graham Bradley.
Yeah.
See that on there.
So if you like your horse racing, you like Graham Bradley, go check it out. Anyway, on with the show now. We were just talking about Canterbury Tales, Lovecraft, good writing in general. But we were talking about how like atmospheric it is. We're like late at night, say, reading horror stories, and I just sort of want to carry on talking about that a bit because it is just like so much fun. I remember the first time I read. There's this really famous Lovecraft story called Shadow over Innsmouth.
Okay. Yes. Yeah.
Have you read that one?
I know about Innsmouth.
Yeah. But that is. I remember I was like reading that, and that's so good. It builds so nicely.
Yeah.
It sort of like builds up quite. It's almost like a slow burner, but even when it's building up at the beginning, it's still somehow really creepy. Like everything's very mysterious. The way he's describing the people in like the seaside town, and like all the buildings and just everything just seems like a little bit off and a bit odd and a bit creepy. And then by the time it finally gets into it, you're like on the edge of your seat reading it.
Yeah.
And then right at the end as well, there's like a massive twist.
Right.
So that's like a great, it's always great to end on like a big twist like that,
I think I was playing like a video game that my brother had that I stole from him. But he took it back.
Might have told me about that.
But he was playing it, and it was like real good. Quite a hard game to get into though, so I never got to see the end of the story. Yeah. That's one book that I definitely love to check out.
The main ones for anybody listening out there that like has never been into Lovecraft, the short stories I would recommend. Shadow over Innsmouth, The Curious Case of Dexter Ward is fantastic.
I remember you said about that one before to me, actually.
Yeah. Whisper in the Darkness, that's really good. Whisper in the Darkness, Curious Case of Dexter Ward, Shadow over Innsmouth. This is just off the top of my head. I could definitely think of a couple more.
Would you not put Call of Cthulhu up there?
That's a great story, but I don't actually think it's like one of the best personally. I think Cthulhu himself. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like in terms of like as a character, he is like a cool character. He's obviously like one of like the most famous Lovecraftian creature, isn't he? But it's really cool because all of Lovecraft's stories are all like in the same universe. So I love it when it's like that because in that regard, it's almost like Marvel. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not like they're standalone. It's like all in the same. So it's like they're all interconnected. So every single story, it's in the same world, and there's this whole mythos behind it, and it's very much like Lord of the Rings in terms of like, you can look up online like all of the different sort of like dark entities and creatures and everything, and how they're all like related, like literally related in some cases, So it's proper cool.
Related.
Lots of like crazy creatures and like weird theories.
The lore goes so deep.
Oh, balls
what
deep.
about that one that Scientology's based on? That's more fiction, isn't it? But science fiction.
Oh no, yeah, that is.
Isn't that quite like
what's the
guy?
Is it Hubbard?
Oh yeah.
Is it Eli Hubbard?
Yeah, or
Robert
Admiral Hubbard or something. When he called himself Admiral Hubbard in the end, he actually
but I don't.
Colonel Hubbard or something.
No, I think it was probably like Captain or
Captain. Yeah,
because he had like a ship. He had a boat. Didn't he?
That was it. Yeah,
but it was like it's something Howard, isn't it?
Hubbard.
Is it like Eli?
And you said Scientology is based off this.
Yeah,
it's based on a book that he wrote, which was like basically like a science fiction book.
L. Ron Hubbard.
L. Ron Hubbard. That's it. L. Ron. Not to be confused with
L. Ron.
Not to be confused with L. Ron from.
So Lafayette Ronald Hubbard. So his first name is Lafayette. Which is a bit weird, isn't it?
Does that mean a beach?
I don't know, mate. Does it?
So.
Have you been like
Something
abroad
like
somewhere and you've
I've
been
seen
to
that
Lafayette?
word. Lafayette.
So he was an American author of science fiction, and he was born in 1911, died in 1986. So it's crazy that Scientology as a religion is actually just based on his writings.
Yeah, I know.
That's mental.
Yeah.
I know like the basics of what they sort of believe. So I think it's something along the lines of, off the top of my head, that like aliens.
Seeded the earth. I mean, I kind of believe that,
like
but
with
not in the
like,
way that he says.
but like almost like as like seeded the souls or something like that. But it's very, very strange.
They own like huge buildings and stuff, don't
it's
they?
a massive like entity.
But it's very controversial and like almost like quite dark, isn't it?
There's Tom Cruise is a Scientologist.
And John Travolta.
Isn't he like?
Yeah,
isn't Tom Cruise like really high up in it?
Yeah,
though?
yeah.
He's not like even just like a member. He's like high up and respected.
Those people that are like really high in society and they've got all this money. It's almost like giving it some weight, you know. Like
I've watched a couple of like documentaries. Yeah, I've watched a couple of documentaries though about Scientology, which is like about people that have like escaped of it in the end, but they've talked about how like dodgy and dark it is, and how they've been like on compounds and there's like armed guards at the gates and you're not allowed to leave.
Did you hear the thing about Tom Cruise's wife like not being able to like scream when she was giving birth?
Who was that? Was it Katie Holmes?
Yeah, and just had to be like dead silent, and it was something to do with the religion. And I was like, that's so weird.
So strange.
Man.
Yeah. So strange.
Weird stuff, man.
Yeah, because there's a couple of like celebrities, isn't there? But there was one that was on the Joe Rogan podcast a few years ago. Her name's like it's like Leah. Oh, what's her name? It's like Leah. I want to say like something like Leah Ramini or something like. Can you look her up, man? Just if you just type in something like Joe Rogan, Leah
Ramini,
Is
American
it Leah
actress.
Ramini? Yeah. She was basically saying about how she used to be in Scientology, and apparently it seems all like good when you first start into it. It seems very positive and very good, and like the more we get into it, it's like slowly becomes more weird and more effed up, and before you know it, it's like it's one of those things where you're like, what the hell have I got myself
into?
I'm in so deep,
and it's almost like by the time you're at that point, it's almost like you're not allowed to leave.
I don't know how you
realise
take something like that so seriously when it's like based on that from a science fiction book.
I know.
And that they actually take it so seriously. You know,
what's
it's
even like
crazy.
more crazy as well? Apparently, all of his sort of like fellow writers of the day and like publishers and stuff like that, like thought he was awful. In terms of his writing, like apparently the quality of his writing wasn't even that good. Like if you want to think of something, you know, some really good like, you know, science fiction and fantasy stuff that's like really well thought of like authors and stuff, like, you know, he wasn't like considered, you know, like a really like good epic writer or anything like that. He was almost like considered a bit of like a crazy laughing stock. But yet somehow it's turned into this like massive thing, hasn't it? In America anyway. I don't think it's any other countries, is it?
Strange
it's just the US
power behind it.
And it's like, yeah, as I said, apparently people have talked about how like, you end up living on these weird compounds where it's like you work, but you don't work for money. You sort of like work for your room and for food, but there's like armed guards at the gates, and it's like you're not really allowed to leave.
Yeah, I know. There's like huge buildings in LA that are like Scientology buildings,
and they get
you never see anyone leave or enter.
Isn't it crazy as
they
well?
They get tax free.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that it's been given tax exempt status in
just purely because it's a religion.
Yeah. But it's like this massive like.
Apparently, originally it wasn't even considered a religion, but they did that purposely not to pay tax or something. So they basically turned it into a religion so they could buy all these buildings and have them tax free, which in itself is so corrupt.
We should turn Pandora's box into a religion.
Yeah, yeah. What do you reckon?
And more tax.
What do you reckon, everyone? The religion of Pandora. We'll turn up in robes.
Who's the figurehead?
Bullwinkle. Bullwinkle, look, he is.
Bullwinkle.
He is our Calego.
Yeah,
he is our Calego. We'll pour blood on his head and do a sacrifice.
Cited as both demon and
God. Yeah, man.
He is. I mean, look at those little cheeks, but then look at those horns.
Yeah, and look at those piercing eyes. At first, you look at him and you think, oh, he's cute, but then the more you stare into those eyes,
what are his intentions?
The more you know he means business. He's in like a parallel dimension, trying to break his way into our realm. Just look at his eyes, everyone. Look at him.
He's so soft, though.
Yeah. Little softy.
I love the way on Archive 81 as well, how they start off like every episode with like a different sort of like
TV clip.
Yeah.
So I thought that was good. I really enjoyed
Gets you
that.
into it.
And they do it like just before the first the intro. So it's like seamless, isn't it? You have that nice little clip, the intro, and then back into the story.
Do you
my
watch
favourite
the
one
intros all
was
the time?
Yeah, because it only goes on for like 15-20 seconds. Doesn't
It's
it?
very American Horror Story, the intro.
Very
American Horror Story.
I like it 'cause it sets the scene.
My favourite little TV bit at the start. You know the one where it was the guy in black and white and he was like,
that was my favourite.
Have you ever thought you saw yourself
across
a crowded room?
And then it was like a lot of people will like turn away and never think of it again.
Yeah.
But there's like that minority that will like search it out and everything like that, and how that leads down this like
and it was like
in this crazy. Well,
yeah,
you're like entering Pandora's box, so to speak. You know. Yeah.
Good stuff, man. Good stuff.
I've also heard of it. Have you ever heard about that thing that some people claim before? And have you ever done this as well? I'd be really interested. Also, anybody out there that's listening to this, whether you're on YouTube, Spotify, TikTok, listening to Sponsored Radio, whatever, let us know if you've ever done this. And if you haven't done this, do this. It does get a little bit creepy after a while.
Oh.
Wait until you're on your own and it's quiet, and just stare at yourself in the mirror for as long as you can. But then in your head, start imagining that your reflection isn't you, it's a different person, and start anticipating that your reflection might do something that you're not doing. And that's creepy. I've done that a couple of times.
I've done that one in the mirror
almost like you're daring.
Yeah.
Almost like you're daring yourself.
Yeah.
And then imagine if suddenly it just went, hello.
Oh.
Yeah.
It's like waved at you or something. And then you would just be like,
The anticipation is so like scary, isn't it?
Especially like the more you stare at yourself, also the more almost like weird it gets. That you're gonna naturally pull a bit of like a weird face, and then that gets creepier.
Well, you start to see yourself almost like deform a little bit, don't you?
I've done it where I've done mirror gazing, and you almost like look through yourself.
So explain what mirror gazing.
So mirror gazing is just a thing where you kind of, it's almost like a meditation, but you look at yourself in the mirror and you let your eyes relax, and you let your eyes kind of look through the reflection that's there.
Right.
And you know, like when you kind of you can stare forward, but you can almost like kind of concentrate on the periphery vision and stuff as well. So you do that and go into a really relaxed state. And if you look at yourself enough in the mirror like that, your face will start changing. Your face will start forming into different kind of.
Well, yeah.
And people say that
similar.
it's like, you know, you can almost see your past lives and stuff of like of different kind of like souls that you have been.
Very Assassin's Creed.
Yeah,
very Assassin's Creed.
And man, and I've done that before and seen my I had short hair and my hair was like real long and like weird stuff like that, and like turned into like this like cow figure.
Whoa.
And stuff, and it was so weird.
Bovine Drew.
Oh,
they call me Bovine Drew.
Once also I was on acid and I did that, and it literally and I had my dressing gown on. And like I turned into an alien, and I was a ship and an alien with a suit, like, and that was my dressing gown. My dressing gown morphed into, oh man,
mate, that sounds
so crazy.
amazing.
That like took it to the next level. I was like, I'm gonna do mirror gazing like while I'm under like in this altered state, and it was like next level. Just
that
like,
sounds crazy, man.
Insane.
That does sound crazy, dude.
Whoa.
Yeah,
I'll tell you another fun thing that's good to do with your loved ones, like your best friends, you know, your missus, your partner, your parents, whatever. And I remember, I don't know why they used to do it. I don't know if they like created it or as a game, or if they like heard it from somebody else. But my parents used to do it with me when I was little. And it's the idea that you like sit like close opposite somebody, and you stare properly, just stare into their eyes, focus on their eyes, and just do it as long as you can. But imagine that you're trying to see an animal, but not a specific animal. Just have it in your head that you're trying to see an animal in their face. And then do it until you start to see their face morph into an animal. And then it's like the idea being that like that is that person's animal.
Oh.
So I remember I used to do it with my mum and dad used to do it, and it was always like my mum was like a vixen, like a female fox, and my dad was like a bear. And they always used to say that I was a wolf. And it's like just very interesting. Like even like if it, you know, probably just hokey, but it's still fun.
It's fun.
It's
Because
just fun.
that happens, like you can do that same thing with the mirror gazing with like people's faces, and that their faces transform, and it gets a bit weird as well.
It's almost like regardless of like what's happening in that moment, it's fun doing.
Yeah.
Whether it's
power of your mind.
Whether it's like there's that small chance that there is something going on a deeper level, or if it is just for the fun of it, it's still worth doing.
Yeah.
I remember I find it fun to do. Like I'd quite like to do it with both of you. The only thing is, obviously, when you're with your mates, it's hard almost not to laugh.
Yeah,
but
it's
if
a very
you just try and
intimate,
shut that
staring
part of your,
into someone's eyes for like a prolonged period of time like that is a very intimate and like connecting thing as well.
Yeah.
Like, you know,
I think as guys, when you're doing it with your other guy mates, you
get a little bit weird.
It only takes your mate to do like one. No, I don't find it weird. I don't find it weird at all. I wouldn't find it weird doing with you guys. I wouldn't find it weird doing it with you guys. But like, yeah, I love you guys. But it's more like if you guys just pulled even the slightest funniest face, I just know I go
start laughing.
Do you know what I mean? Like
I
just start cracking up. So it's almost like you both have to be like serious, which is hard Because let's face it, you're not usually serious.
Have you ever had it as well, like where you've got in a real deep conversation with someone, and like you're just in a real deep chat,
flow state,
and you're talking to them, you're staring at them in the eyes and that, and it's almost like you see their face change, like, but not in a way like this, like morph, but like you almost see like a deeper level to like their face. Like
I understand what you mean,
like
on like a subconscious
weird
level,
and it's almost like I've done it a few times. Like me and Meg have been like real deep in conversation, and it's like, oh my god, I'm like seeing like a different level to who you are, like in this moment. But it only happens when it's like really deep and like opening conversations, you know. And it's like, and I always think that, and I'm like, oh, this is so weird. I'm almost seeing like your soul here. Like,
do you know what I think is really interesting about stuff like that as well? I think it's impossible for that to happen in the daytime. Do you know what I mean?
I've had it happen in the daytime for me, but
really?
More like yeah, like not like their face changing and stuff like that, like morphing into something different, but just this. It's almost like you tap into this different like energy state, like when you both get in, and that like when you do it, you almost feel it, and it's like, whoa, I'm seeing a deeper level to you. Now.
The way I almost interpret the way you're saying is that their face like goes clearer.
Yeah,
I've had like deep conversations,
it doesn't change,
like
but you're seeing a deeper part to
almost
their face.
Like you know when you, this is going to sound weird compared to what we're talking about, but you know when you take that first sip of like an energy drink and you feel your eyes be like and they open up a bit. It's a bit like that.
Yeah,
like you're looking at.
I
them
even
and you
remember
see him
it
a bit like
my mum. Like we were got in this deep conversation, like, and that was just in the day. But on the sofa, and it's like, whoa, I'm like seeing this deeper level. I don't know. It's a bit of a weird one, cool. But it definitely happens to me sometimes.
I do find it really interesting though. Like, I don't know if you guys agree. Maybe it's just me, but I feel like at the night time. It's so fascinating the difference between night and day, other than just the obviousness of like at night time it's dark and in the daytime it's light. But like dynamics change at night time. Like everything seems different, and I find for me at night time you so more naturally get into like deep conversations. You know, I feel like. And I think that was probably some of that is just common sense in terms of like in the daytime, I think everybody's busy doing things. When you're doing things, you're not really thinking
other stuff
about
on your mind.
Yeah. When you're at nighttime, say you've done your things for the day, your brain sort of like relaxes. Your brain relaxes, it chills out a little bit, and as a result, then you're like left to sort of like ponder the universe and to like then just have general discussions with the people around you.
I wonder as well, like with the, you know, like they say like the sun and the moon, like, you know, like the moon like affects like the tides and things like that. It can be, you know, you can say about like people's emotions and things like that. I wonder if that people into werewolves. Yeah, I wonder if that hasn't anything to do with like the vibe of like, you know, like day and night, like the actual like light that's coming from the sun, the like that kind of energy that's coming in, but then also like the energy coming in from the moon when it's dark, like how much that has an effect.
It would make sense, because if you think of like the way people interrogate people, you always picture them with like a bright light, you know, it's quite intense. But if you're just having like, let's say you're on vacation in a nice room in a spa, you know, you've got like a nice dim
or in a
sort
nice
of
like
light, dimly lit.
Or if you go for like a nice little like alcoholic coffee like after dinner, and it's like just dim lamps. So you like go sit on like a nice sofa,
Moroccan bar.
Or like it reminds me of like when I went to Crete, I'd always like go and have like an Italian coffee after dinner. Just a really nice Italian. I know some people might want like an Irish coffee or like a French coffee. I think French is like brandy, isn't it? Irish is whiskey.
I like Tia Maria.
Yeah, Tia Maria. Which one's that again? Tia Maria coffee. I can't remember. That's obviously one of the
Bailey's one.
Yeah. And then what's what's that liqueur that's like an Italian coffee? If for some reason I can't think of it off the top of my head.
Is it an orangey one?
No. I'm having a brain fart. It's absolutely delicious, but it's something that you'd only really want in something like a coffee. I don't know why I can't think of it off the top of my head now. It's really annoying me. Hopefully I'll remember in a little bit. But I was going to say Kahlua, but it's not Kahlua.
That's a good one.
That is a good one. Anyway, I digress. Yeah, it's a nice relaxing light, isn't it? But a couple of things I thought immediately when you said about, you know, how the moon affects like the tides and everything, and then compared to the sun. A couple of like sort of interesting observations. Like, well, one, I think it's really interesting that the term lunatic.
Yeah.
You know, so if somebody was a madman, you would say like, oh, he's a lunatic.
Yeah.
That actually originally comes from, it's tied into almost like the whole werewolf mythos. So the idea that like sometimes if a moon is powerful enough, if there's a big full moon in the sky, it can literally make you so animalistic that you go crazy. Yeah, you actually you absolutely go crazy. Also, what was the other thing I was going to say? Oh yeah, the caveat to that though,
right,
which I think is like almost like a natural thing to question, is the moonlight itself isn't moonlight.
I know, it's a reflection of
it's a reflection of the sun. So in that regard, you would have to question, like, if the moon is essentially like a mirror, then how is that light different?
It's moon flavored light.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? It's like it's got its almost, as you said, it's almost, maybe it's got like a flavor.
Sunlight is direct, isn't it?
But yeah,
that's
so like,
not direct. It's like indirect.
But like moonlight is sunlight in a way.
It is. It's a reflection of sunlight. But what, like, does the moon have any just the
properties or something?
Yeah, that's like it's hitting the moon and then it's coming back down. Just that it's a reflection.
That's
anyway.
The thing to
maybe it's like weaker sunlight because it's
of course it is.
Of
course it's like you can stare at the moon in the night and you don't. If you stare at the sun in the day, that would really damage your eyes. Really damage your eyes.
That's also something I've done quite a bit, like sun gazing, where you look at when the sun's up, but you actually look at the sun, even though you say you don't stare into direct sunlight.
You're not supposed to.
So I've done that for like 10 minutes at a time before.
Are you kidding me?
And I swear
that's so bad for your eyes, man.
Well, you say that, but then a lot of people say it isn't. So
you can get like cataracts and that from doing that.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that say that it's all right, and like I've done it, and it definitely hasn't damaged my eyes. So like for about half an hour afterwards, I just see this massive blue dot in my vision, and I can't see very well. But then it goes away. But
disclaimer:
Pandora's
box does not advise anybody to stare at the sun.
No, unless you're as silly as me. But that's quite interesting because your eyes adjust to it, and like a ball of sun in the day, you can't see it as an actual ball.
Yeah.
Like when you start staring at it like that, you see it as the ball it is.
So you do that without sunglasses?
Without sunglasses, just straight up into the sun, and I've done it. And after a while, like rather than it being like just this ball of like you can't see any different definition, it comes in, and then you just see it as the ball.
Don't do
and
that
it's just
too
like,
often, man.
whoa.
Don't do that too often.
Well,
you might get cataracts, and you might get like weird, like some sort of like weird blindness.
I did a lot of research into it, and
I've definitely looked at the sun before. I stared at the sun, but not for 10 minutes at a time.
I know that like
it's called sun gazing. It's like people do it as like a meditation.
What do they call it? What is it? Like optometry? What are they called? Like optometrists? What are they called? People that you go to like see have your eyes tested. What are they called?
Dentists.
No.
Optician.
Opticians. Opticians. I know that like opticians like recommends that like even if it's just like a sunny day that you wear glasses to protect your eyes from cataracts.
Yeah.
Since I've got blue eyes, my eyes are meant to be like more sensitive to sunlight. I'm meant to like always have them on. But
I never do one of those.
I've got bright colour. Well, not as bright as yours, but I've got like sort of like greeny blue eyes. So yeah, Drew would probably be better because he's got brown eyes. But I don't think that me and you should definitely not be staring at the sun.
Yeah.
Sure. Don't try us at home, kids.
Yeah. A bit of dodge. Anyway, we're going to listen to a track now. This is Shock and Terror. That's what you'll get if you stare at the sun too long and then you're like freaking out because you're blind. But yeah, this is Shock and Terror by CKY. Stick around, folks. You are listening to Pandora's Box on Aspen Waite Radio. Thanks for chilling with us this evening, guys. We appreciate every single one of you. I'm your host, as always, Obadiah Pennywhistle. To the left of me is Mr. Bojangles.
Mr. Bojangles.
To the right of me is Filch. They call him Big Filch.
Big Filch. You're gonna have a big Filch, baby.
You'll have to figure out why they call him Big Filch, baby. It's that time of the week again where I give you some of my favourite quotes that I dug out of the archive. Some of them are new quotes that I found. Some of them are old classics that I've liked through the eons. This one is by the legendary Stoic philosopher Seneca the Younger.
Ooh.
I will do nothing because of public opinion, but everything because of conscience. That's a great one.
Let your conscience be your guide.
That is a great one, isn't it? That is an absolutely great one. This is from Euripides, the Greek. I would rather die on my feet than live on my knees.
Ooh.
Freedom!
Ooh.
Freedom! Ooh. This is more like an interesting fact rather than actually a quote itself, but it's like about as long as a quote. Did you know that according to quantum physics, a particle vibrating due to the sound of your mouth, due to the sound of you speaking, can infect a molecule inside a star at the edge of the universe? This phenomenon is known as quantum entanglement. the greatest illusion of the universe is the illusion of separation.
Oh, I love that.
What? I don't get it.
The idea that like the vibration of your throat could cause molecules in a star at the edge of the universe to like vibrate.
It's that powerful.
And it's also like that's how almost like connected everything is.
Yeah. Have you not heard about like the particles where they've got it was something like 2 atoms or something from a same thing, put them 14 miles apart, and then moved that one, and that one did the exact same thing from 14 miles apart instantaneously. There was no separation. Like distance was a separation, but it was an illusion of separation.
Quantum entanglement.
My God.
So if anybody out there like Nathaniel who's now had their mind blown by this, just research quantum entanglement, and obviously as the name suggests, it's the idea that everything is entangled.
Yeah.
So everything is entwined.
That's awesome.
This next quote's a really good one. This is by Leo Tolstoy, and this one really resonates with me because I actually even always thought this. Even as a teenager, I thought this myself before I even realised that this was like a great quote by somebody like Leo Tolstoy, and this is: "Everyone thinks of changing the world, but no one thinks of changing themselves." And I really like that one because I think it's very easy to be a critic. And I think it's very easy to act like you have the answer for the world's problems. And I think sometimes people do this almost like to reflect, to project. So it's a way of projecting and sort of deflecting any responsibility from ourselves in our own lives.
Oh, man, totally.
But the idea is, at a base level, is that if we all really, really, on a deep level, focused on working on ourselves, to make ourselves decent, honest, just, worked on our, really, work to become the best version of ourselves possible, intelligent, compassionate, strong, decent, then everyone in the world would be such a decent member of society that the world would be such an amazing place. But unfortunately, a lot of people don't do that. They're so busy criticising the next.
If they do this, the world would be better.
If only that politician did this. Oh, if only my neighbour did this. If only it's my friend's fault because they did this. Oh, it's my ex's fault because
start talking to the man in the mirror.
That's it.
Michael Jackson said.
Read some books. Start working out. Really reflect on yourself. If you had like a dispute with somebody recently, think: could I have done something better?
Yeah.
Did I
self-reflection?
Did I lash out at any point? Was I bitter and nasty at any point? In a way, that's not obviously constructive. That's just you lashing out, and it's not productive. Like you got to think about these things. Have you been decent to the people around you? Have you? And let's face it, none of us are ever going to be perfect, and that's fine. We all make mistakes, but at the end of the day, if you look at yourself in the mirror and you say, I've done the best I can today, and if you look at yourself in the mirror and say, I know I wouldn't lie, I wouldn't lie to the people I love, and I wouldn't lie to the people around me, and that if I was witnessing something bad happen around me, I know that I would do something to stop that from happening, rather than walking by and ignoring it.
And it's very simple.
If you look at yourself in the mirror and you can say that, then we all do our best. Yeah, exactly.
But it's like we said before, man, about like your sphere of influence, like that, like. What's your sphere of influence? Don't say stuff about other people's sphere of influence. Yes. Like you don't know what the answer is because that's not what you have control over. Like what do you physically and mentally have control over in this moment? That's you. Yourself. So if you start talking about other people and politicians and all that stuff, that's like you said, projecting it outwards rather than actually taking responsibility for what your sphere of influence is. And at the end of the day,
it's just noise. It's just noise. Like how much good are you really doing?
You're adding to the problem.
You're technically saying a lot, but what's
are you doing?
What's really what's actually coming of it? Yeah, what's coming of it?
Yeah,
what's coming of it other than
moaning?
Essentially moaning. And this almost like leads into, I think a lot of these quotes in some ways, not all of them, but some of them are connected, and I like this. And this is I've told a couple of quotes by Jocko Willink before, whom I'm a fan of, ex-US Navy SEAL, very decent human being, and this is just a great simple little quote, as most of his quotes are, and that is, "Weakness is strong. I must be stronger." Ooh. And I love like what that means on a deeper level. So the idea is that like it's so easy to be weak, and it's so tempting.
I get
that
it now,
that is a mighty temptation. And what it means by that is like when I say weakness, it doesn't mean like physically weak. What it means is it's like weakness is so many things.
Option.
If you know that the best thing for you and your family say is to do a certain thing, but the temptation is for you to not do that and instead go down the pub and get hammered, or You know that you said that you were going to give up smoking cigarettes for your health, and so that you can live a long life for your kids, so you can be around for your kids when they're 50 years old, rather than potentially cutting your life short and not being able to say like what I don't know, you might not be able to take your kids to the prom or something like that. Then that is weakness. If you don't give up that, because you know that's for the greater good, you know that's best not just for you but for your loved ones, for everyone around you. You need to be strong. You need to be stronger than the strength and the pull of the weakness.
Yeah.
So great quote. When you get home, if you're tired sometimes, if you told yourself you were going to go for a jog that day, or you were going to have a workout and you know that's good for you, you need to do it. It's too easy to just sit down on the sofa.
The devil is resistance.
Yeah. If you were gonna eat, if you decided you were going to have some vegetables and something like that, something that's make it delicious, but something that's good for you for dinner, and instead you just end up, just snacking on rubbish. Don't. It's too easy.
Then you'll start hating yourself on the inside like I do.
Exactly.
Oh man, that food thing is one of the biggest struggles for me. Like the laziness of just getting something easy and tasty.
The thing is, you can find ways around it. So I think for me, I've been so into working out for so long now that everything I eat is delicious, but they fill my requirements. And I always go on about burritos, but really just things like burritos, for example. I say I make homemade guacamole. So it's just avocados, some coriander, some lemon or lime, bit of salt and pepper. So that's really healthy. That's good for you. Get some like mixed beans or something like that. Just pure proper beans, like no sauce or anything added. Cook them up. Cook some sort of meat. Whether it's like grass-fed steak or whether it's organic chicken, something like that. Just season it a little bit with some paprika and some other things. You cook all that up. You whack that in a wrap, and you grill that wrap so it's nice and crunchy. Maybe a little bit of hot sauce, because hot sauce is not bad for you. There's nothing. It's just maybe a bit of sodium in there, but you can get like say Frank's hot sauce. It's not got any calories or anything like that in it, but it makes it delicious once mixed with all the guac and everything like that. And that is delicious. Maybe even sometimes I'll chuck a bit of scrambled egg in there or something.
Nice.
And that will sort you right out, and that's perfect. You got loads. Chop up some tomatoes.
Do it and feel good.
Yeah, put some salad in there as well. I chop up some tomatoes, some cucumber, maybe chuck in some spinach leaves or some lettuce. It varies a little bit. I switch it up a little bit. But things like that. Find ways to eat delicious food, but food that's really good for you. Things like have like jacket potato or sweet potato with some sort of protein sauce, and then some broccoli or something. Cook it in a way that's nice, Squirt some lemon on the broccoli and whatever you need to do to make that taste nice. Put a bit of extra virgin olive oil on it or something. This is another great quote by Jocko. The more you practice, the better you get. The more freedom you have to create. That's a good one, isn't it? Isn't that good? And I think you will definitely understand that as a musician. I think if you have worked to build an ability or something, whether it's art, whether it's you've worked at an athletic endeavor to the point where you've now become a really good athlete in that particular way, or whether it's art, I said a musical instrument, whatever it may be. If you work, if you practice, you put in the time, and you become good at something, then you have freedom to create. And the better you get, the more freedom you have.
Yeah.
And nobody can take that away from you.
A real good example of that is like with music, is like there's Guthrie Govan, who's an insanely good guitarist, and he would talk about that, and he's an amazing improvising. And he would say, he knows so much about theory and everything like that, but he's like, at the moment of that creation in music where you're with a band or you're on a backing track or you're doing whatever, but you're just in full flow improvisation, all of that knowledge, that theory goes out of the window, but it's because it's already ingrained in, and you can just like open up the floodgates and just, you don't have to think, you're just like literally just creating, but from that place where you put all of that work in. So it's got structure and it's got form, but it's not something you have to think about, it's something that you just like do. And I was like, that's so cool. So it is freedom, it's freedom, but you need to put the work in before you can experience that freedom.
Exactly, because before you've honed that ability, you can't really do anything. You're so limited. So you need to put that time and you need to put the work in, and then once you do, you can reap the benefits, and that's a whole new beautiful world you've opened up for yourself. You see like a really good artist or a really good musician or a top tier athlete doing something that they've been doing for years, for decades, and it's so impressive. And they are the masters of that universe. They've almost like created a universe where they are the gods of that universe. Amazing. Anyway, we've sadly come to the end of another Pandora's box. We're out of time today. I was going to talk about hell pigs pigs. I was going to talk about entelodons. We're going to have to save that for next week. So if you want to hear about some giant, ferocious hell pigs, and I'm being serious, these things actually existed. They were called entelodons. Then tune in next week. I'm going to talk to you guys about Daeodon, the biggest ever hell pig. But thanks for chilling with us this evening. We love every single one of you. Tune in next week for some more topics, a plethora of interesting subjects, topics, and many a shenanigan.